Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, this is the one.
All right, how's everyone doing today?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it. Welcome to Weedy Wednesday.
Thank you.
So, obviously this week is Mullein. I'm really excited about it because on my way to work today, I found this on the side of the road and pulled over real quick and snagged her. So this is actually Mullein. We see her everywhere, and I thought it would be a good visual because she is this stalk that we see all through the winter time when everything else is dead. She is coming up through the prairies, and once I brought this in, we'll have a good visual because you can see her everywhere now.
But would you pick it and use it now?
You know,
Or not really?
she's wet right now, but mainly what we have for her right now, and I'll talk about this further, but medicinally, all of her purposes are gone at this point.
Okay.
But there is this use that goes back to winter solstices and when people made candles. And they would take mullein and they would dip them in wax and they became torches for the winter time. Yeah. So that's kind of their full round use. So we'll go ahead and get into her. So before I go in deep about mullein today, last time that we had Weedy Wednesday, I think Kathy, you might have brought up the question, as we go through each week, every herb sounds like something I should take.
Yeah.
And how do I know what herb I should take? Because everything sounds like something is good, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought today would be the perfect time to fill out the worksheet that I handed you called What is Our Constitution?
Okay.
So what is our Constitution is a perfect way to identify the different herbs that work best for us and who we are personally. Because if we think about herbs and their energetics, some herbs are going to be warm, and when I think of a warm herb, I think of cinnamon. And some herbs are going to be cold, and when I think of a cold herb, a traditional one would be peppermint. Now, every human also carries their own personalized energetic. And so we can also be warm, we can also be cold, and herbs also carry moisture or they carry dryness. And us as humans also carry moisture or dryness. And so we have our personalized little signature that is our own language. Once we know our personal signature, we can then pinpoint what herbs work best for our body. Okay, so this is the worksheet that we have. So the first part, I'll go through with you, and it is A1 or AB. So it is one or the other. And for the first part, for A, we're trying to figure out if you carry heat or if you carry coldness within you. So if you go through 1A and you answer the majority of those questions, you find the majority of those appeal to you, I would tend to say you have more of it. Compared to 1B, and the majority of those you don't apply to you, go back to A, okay? And vice versa. Okay. So once you have number 1 correct for yourself, then on the back page, that's where that first slot goes for 1. That will be either hot or cold, all right? And then you go on to the second question, and that will deal with moisture or dryness, and that will fill in the second blank, okay? So I'll give you guys some time to fill that out.
What if you're split in the middle?
We'll talk about that in a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I'm doing it.
Yep.
Do you struggle with edema? What is edema?
Yes, so excess water, joint pain, can be arthritic, not being able to remove swelling, that sort of thing. Okay. Anyone needs more time? I'll give it a couple more minutes here. Does anyone want to share their constitution?
Mine is 80.
What do you mean by AB?
A is number 1.
Okay,
2
so-
is B.
Okay, so it would be heat
Yes.
and dry.
Dry.
So you have warm and you are dry.
Yes.
Okay, alright. So instead of AB, write heat and dry.
Heat and dry.
Yep, heat and dry. Yep.
That's what I'm looking like.
Yeah. I think I'm more cold than dry. But I have some of the heat.
Yeah.
But
And I mean,
I have
it-
more of the cold than I.
It doesn't matter what every other person
Right,
has
right,
because it's definitely
Separate.
personalized.
Mhm. I thought for sure that I'd be damp, but other than excess sweating,
Right,
I don't have anything else.
that's the same with me too.
But I have several on the dry.
Right.
Okay. Alright.
Depends on the day.
Maybe I should answer this in the summertime.
Oh.
Okay, so let's talk about what this means, okay? So once you have the herbal constitution here. Hello. Once you have the herbal constitution, this gives you a great power in identifying what herbs work best for you. So for instance, Kathy, you said heat and dry?
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of the herbs that are on the market are cooling, but they also dry you out. And so that is where the formulations will come into benefit for you because you can add herbs that have moisture along with those that dry.
Oh,
So knowing what adds moisture as an herb and what is cool will be really beneficial to you because what you want once you identify your constitution is actually the opposite. So if, Kathy, you are hot and you're dry, you don't want an herb that's hot and dry because it will amplify that,
Oh, okay.
right?
Right.
Mhm. What you want is the opposite. You want something that is cold and moist to neutralize it. Okay? Does that make sense for everyone? Okay. So, going back to your question from last week and or last month, what herbs best suit you, you can really utilize this information to identify that because some of the herbs that we've tried were moistening, but some are really astringent, some are fine.
Yeah.
And so long term, for you, Kathy, they may have cooled you down, but they would have been too drying for you in the long run. Yeah. Okay, so how does everyone feel with that information?
Oh, yeah. That's really good.
Useful? Useful? Okay, all right. Has anyone identified or known your constitution? I know we've done this before, Jen, but has anyone else gone through this process before?
Just briefly here.
Briefly? Okay, all right. So now let's dive into Mullein. Does anyone have any personal experience with Mullein? Right off the bat. Carly doesn't count. Not sorry, did anyone else raise their hand here? No personal experience? Has anyone here utilized their chest relief tea? All right.
Utilize what?
Our chest relief tea.
Oh.
So this is a tea that has mullein in it. So mullein is a kind of complex herb in the fact that when you look at it, this old relic of the plant, many parts of the plant can be utilized. So right here is where the flowers were blooming. And when the flowers bloom, they don't all bloom at the same time. You know how on some plants, the flowers all the way around, they all start blooming at once. With mullein, there might be one here, and one here, and one here, and one here. And they're a very bright yellow flower. So when they're blooming, they're sporadic. The whole thing isn't in bloom. And what the rest looks like are almost tiny little Brussels sprouts. They have like a little bulb on them. And it almost looks like a hops. If you've seen hops before, the hops plant, they're just tiny little bulbs. And I talk about that. You can kind of see maybe some up here that haven't been released. I'll pass this around after we're done. But I talk about the way that it looks because they're not all going to be yellow at the same time. When you see a stalk like this, it's probably sporadic, maybe 4 or 5 flowers. And the flowers, which I have here, are known for both the lungs, which the leaf is too, but have a slightly different constitution or energetic than the leaf. So when you research mullein and you see different materia medicas and you see it written about, you usually see it as a demulcent. So demulcent means that it's moistening. And it kind of coats the mucous membranes of the throat. And usually what they're talking about is the flower. The flower has that moisture. When we talk about the leaf here, the leaf doesn't have quite as much of that moistening aspect. So the leaf, we'll touch it because it's kind of fluffy. Well, actually very fluffy, even the dead stuff here. It has that very soft, almost like lamb's quarters feeling, lamb's ears, leftover feeling. But when you infuse it, it has more of an astringent quality to it. So I have both of these brewing right now, and we'll sample both of them and talk about them in detail, the differences. But it's important to kind of identify the constitution of each part in relation to what element you're dealing with. So usually when you're thinking about mullein, it's most commonly referred to as a lung companion. So if you're dealing with things like asthma, just issues with the bronchial tubes, swelling, anything like a regular cold or flu, mullein has known to remove stuck mucus and moisten those swelled up bronchioles. So what's the difference between the two, and what part do you want to utilize? So on the paper here, I'll show you. I have this nice little category right on the side here, and it says, what type of cough do you have? And it says, is your cough dry, irritable, with little or no expectoration, so it's not producing anything? Is your cough irritable, it's been going on a long time, causing lots of tension in the body, keeping you up at night? Or is your cough stagnant with lots of mucus? So that would be something that's producing a lot. So it's a wet cough at that point. And knowing the type of cough you have dictates the type of herbs that you want to utilize with it, okay? So if, for instance, you are coughing up a lot of mucus, you would not want to utilize the mullein flower because it's going to be adding more moisture into your cough at that point. Now, the mullein leaf, however, would have some astringent qualities to that extra mucus aspect. However, I would say that it is kind of a balancing companion. You know, when you see down here for the copious amounts of mucus, you usually work with stimulating expectorants, things that actually make your lungs vibrate, or those mucous membranes, to remove that stuff. You get when you cold stuff, And those are things like Elecampaign. I think we have OSHA. Also here, I just listed the 2 ingredients that we have.
Those are herbs.
Yes, those are other herbs. Yep. Yeah. And so both of those also have really deep antibacterial qualities, and so will be good for infection. Now, when you compare that with the mullein, mullein will open up the lungs, and it will have that relaxing quality that you're not necessarily going to need if you need something to move out, right? So you need to identify what type of cough you have. Is that kind of clear when identifying what type of herb to use with the type of lung condition you have? So, how about we try some things? Okay, all right. I think this guy is mullein leaf. So we're gonna try the mullein leaf tea. We're gonna try the mullein leaf tincture and the mullein flower. Now we have the mullein leaf, I said, in our chester leaf tea. We have it tinctured in a glycerite. So it's not tinctured like a traditional tincture in an alcohol base, but it's in a glycerite. So it's slightly sweet. And that inherently balances out some of the astringent quality that the mullein leaf would have. So I would say that because it's in a glycerite, would probably be closer to the flower itself, just because the glycerite is almost like a honey mixture. Okay, how about we start? Has anyone had any lung issues this fall? I was having lung issues all fall from I think it was the harvest this year actually. But,
Yeah, dusty and dry.
it ended up with bronchitis, so my those mucous membranes got so swollen you couldn't actually get the mucus out, and the infection came. So, okay, pass this around. I just brewed this about 10 minutes before you guys came, so it is quite warm. And as a reminder, this is the leaf, and we'll let it sit for just a little bit. And then I'll walk you through organoleptics again. All right. I got some for Carly. Anna, would you like some?
Sure.
Adam?
Yeah.
Yep. Adam, I know I asked you to stop the mullein flower. Was that strained in the back, that timer?
I don't think so.
You can handle that. You Carly. Thanks, Carly.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so whenever we have an herb here, we go through organoleptics, and I'll pass the dry plant around so we can smell it, and really instill the parts of the plant into our sinuses, into our brain, along with tasting it. And we'll go through that process of what the organoleptics are once again, okay? So, are you guys comfortable if fingers touch if we pass around? Okay. So, just grab a little bit for your hand as you dry, as it passes around. Now, as you pick some, and you're comfortable with it, Organoleptics are also really useful if you chew on the piece of the plant. Now, you are it's not necessary for you to swallow if you don't want to. It's really what you're doing here is chewing for 60 to 90 seconds. And you're instilling the taste, the smell, and how the plant responds to your body and to your brain. Thank you. So I'm gonna take some too and start chewing. And then I'm gonna pass some cups around while I'm chewing. Usually we'll do this in silence just so we can sit with how our body's responding. And as I pass some empty cups around, if you wanna spit it out into that.
Your empty cup.
I got one.
Oh, good. Ate it. This is the what? The leaf?
This is the leaf. Yep. Okay.
Reminds us of something, but we can't
Right.
So what we're looking for here, how did it respond within your body? Was it drying? Was it moistening? Did your salivary glands add moisture to your mouth, or did it suck all the moisture out? Does your mouth feel crisp and cool, like a winter breeze? Or is it hot and sweaty, spicy feeling?
Spicy and dry.
Spicy and dry? And I will say that there is no wrong answer here because herbs always respond differently to the person. So if Kathy says spicy and dry, someone can say moist and hot. And
Mine
there's,
is moist.
yep, mhm.
Yeah, mine is.
I don't know.
Would you get a big leaf?
Okay, so with my personal experience is that, as you're chewing it, this is such a cerebral experience for me because I love doing this, especially if you're out wild crafting, because then you can, if you come across mullein, this stock for mullein only lives for 2 years.
Oh.
And so this is the stock that comes up in the second year of its life. And so the first year, there's something called a rosette of leaves that form in a circle. And so if you're out wild crafting, you won't know the mullein unless you go through that process that we just went through. And you maybe sample a little bit and see how your body is responding. So try it in your mouth, chew it, and spit it out. So I would encourage you to now try the infusion. If you want to let it sit in your mouth, you can even gargle it like a little bit of a wine tasting and do this, ask yourself the same thing. Did it add moisture? Did it cool me down? And then once you swallow it, ask yourself, where is it traveling to in my body? Does my nervous system feel activated? Is it going to my gut? Is it going to my lungs? Do my muscles feel more relaxed? feeling about the infusion of the leaf? Pretty mild
Yes.
in flavor,
Oh, very
pretty
mild,
easy
yeah.
to drink. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the leaf. Once again, I ask you, does it feel like it was moisture drying for you guys? Did it add moisture? Did it feel like it coated your throat, or it kind of tonified those mucous membranes and it strains things out?
It was moist.
Moist for
just
you?
like the, whatever, the dry leaf thing was too, but
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
It was
yep,
moist, what about you
Yep.
guys?
that's okay. That's an answer too.
Mine's just dry, drying.
Trying, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I will tell you first my constitution, which is cold and dry. So I'm already inherently dry. And when I drink this, I feel like I get more dry. So, and it could just be because of my constitution that I am more susceptible to the dryness of the leaf. But when I talk here, it's like my tongue is dry. Like I can feel the tannins, almost like I drank a glass of wine and it's like everything is sucked out of my mouth. And that's how I feel with the leaf. Now I do feel this warming aspect in my lungs. Like everything has settled in and expanded a little bit. Even my muscles in my back, which I felt like were a little bit tense today, have loosened up. So it's almost like I can stand a little bit tight, arms straighter. So, and you know, if you think about the visual aspect of mullein, I'm a great proponent for looking at the visual of plants to see how they affect the body. When mullein is in her strength, the stalk is very tall and straight. So along with helping the lungs, which the leaves are huge, you know, here we just have the cut up pieces, but each leaf is about the size of my palm. When it's in its rosette, they're very big, and so they mimic kind of the shape of the lungs. And now this, to me, mimics the spine. And so if I was going to utilize this as something that was useful for, let's say I was having spinal issues or connective tissue issues, because it is an anti-inflammatory, I would want to utilize the stalk, the leaves, the whole plant in doing something like that. The roots as well. So if I was going to actively make something to support my connective tissues in my spine, this would happen after the flowers were blooming. Then I could dig up the roots in the second year of its life, because at that point the seeds have gone and the plant has dispersed its life, and you can dig up the roots. Okay? But the reason I would utilize the whole plant is the whole plant is needed to give the plant its strength for its tall, hardy spine. And so the same process that I would utilize for a similar formula for my spine. Both the roots, the flowers, the stalk, everything.
I've noticed this year, when we walk the trails, there are a lot of, it's either mullein or lamb's ear. I'm not sure which one,
Yep.
because there's no flowers, but they do look like big roses coming out. So we would have to taste them to know the difference
This year.
this year.
Next year,
Next year,
you'll be able to tell if it was mullein because it will have a stalk.
okay.
Yep. If it doesn't have a stalk, next year it's probably an ounce quarter.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I did have one print off kind of showing you the difference. Give me a second here.
I never saw that many.
Oh,
I was
Yeah.
surprised.
So I printed this off which was the picture of the rosette, and then the bottom of the leaf too. So the leaf has kind of a shiny, you can kind of see it in the picture here. The bottom of the leaf is a different color, and it has almost a sheen to it from the top of the leaf. So I'll pass this around just so you can kind of get an idea of the visual for harvesting. Another important thing about mullein is the leaf is not jagged at all. It's a very smooth leaf all the way around. And just like you said, Kathy, it feels like a lamb, baby lamb's ear, so super soft. And you'll, if you want to take some more of the leaf around, I can pass that around, and I can pass the stalk around here too.
So do most people only use it after it's flowered?
So you can certainly harvest the leaf the first year,
Okay.
and the leaves will grow back. Of course, if you harvest the roots, then it will kill the plant. Yeah. So you can sparingly harvest the leaf during the first year, as long as you don't over harvest.
Okay.
And then the second year, of course, you can harvest. Yeah.
Do they self-seed then?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a great question, because as I was researching it, self-seeding, I'll pass this around here. I was doing some research, and there was a study from, I think it was the Madison University of Madison out of Wisconsin. Their agricultural website had a study on mullein, and they had found that the seeds of mullein, so it's a topical germinator, which means once the seeds fall out here, they just need to lay on the soil, and then sun needs to hit them, and that's it. So they germinate very well as long as they're in a soil where sun can reach them. Now, the study said that they, in agricultural digs and archaeological digs, they have found mullein seeds back from 1300 AD that are still viable.
Oh my.
And so it's just remarkable that this plant has been able to stay alive that long, and that the seeds just have that sort of resilience. Now, another photo I saw was a photo of a penny with probably about 50 of the seeds next to it. And so the seeds are super, super tiny, about the size of a pinhead. So they scatter crazy. Yeah. It is actually considered an invasive species in the U.S., but we love her. All right, I'll pass the stalk around here. Okay, so I'm going to, would you guys like to try the flower or the mullein leaf tincture next? Should we start with the tincture and end with the flower?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right.
Now, does it make, yeah, I know you brew the tea.
Yeah.
Like for sun tea, you're saying, I
Yeah.
like that stuff in there, but, it's hot, and then the baby drink is cold.
Yeah.
Can you do that with any of these teas without losing it on the?
Actually, that's a really great question, Kim.
Because I like things
Yeah.
cold.
You like
And
this?
see it now.
Yeah. So,
I hope of the
I like that you answered that question or asked that question, because once you brew things that are here, at least you brew them hot. So at least they start off with hot. You're extracting those properties or those constituents from hot water.
Okay.
And then once it goes to cold, then the cold constituents of the plant come out. So it's actually a more diverse formulation.
So it's okay.
So it's okay. Yep, as long as you start with hot, because those hot constituents are still in that tea water. And then you move it to cold. Oh, good. So yeah, you get both of them then.
Okay.
Isn't it fascinating?
Yeah, it is.
And now that you see it firsthand and handle it, you're gonna see it everywhere.
Cause I've seen it on the bike trail too. I mean, I walk them all over, but yeah.
I'll take that from you in just a second.
That's fine, no problem.
Now you can get some stuff for your son's cup.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do here with the tincture, take that from you, good, is so I have approximately 1 milliliter that we're gonna test, which is about 30 drops. And it's kind of hard to test tinctures. Would you prefer me just to put a little bit of water in them so then it'll be easier to try? Okay, not a tincture, that's right, but it's hard to break through with that name. Now, as for testing the glycerite here, I wanted to go through another way that I use Mullein, because mostly we have talked about the physical properties that Mullein is used for the lungs. I also utilize it energetically. And when I talk about energetically, it's when grief gets stuck in the lungs. So when someone is experiencing sadness, depression, a lot of those experiences or those emotions get held in the lungs. So I'll utilize different physical herbs to open up the lungs, stimulate the lungs, and move that energy out. And Mullein is a really good opening herb because it's relaxing and opening for the lungs to kind of get things moving. So if someone is, let's say, has lost a loved one or is dealing with, around here, seasonal sadness, Mullein is a great one for seasonal sadness because it also just helps with common colds too. So I also use it energetically in that manner. This is the tincture of the Mullein leaf as a glycerin.
Should we just shoot it down like a shot?
I would put it in your mouth and do the same as like you were doing a wine tasting, and we want to see if your mucous membranes are adding or it's drying out as well. So go through the similar process because again, this is a glycerite, so it inherently should be sweeter, shouldn't be as bitter, and it might add more moisture, might feel like it has more moisture, but everyone's different. So it is the leaf, not the flower. And we'll just see how everyone responds. Adam, would you like to try that too?
Carly gave me hers.
Carly, would you like some?
Yeah, yes, please.
So the tincture is a quick way you can,
It's a quick
instead of having to brew
Yeah.
tea
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
I really like the tincture when, let's say you're dealing with something chronic and you're at work, but it's not something that's so bad that you're staying at home for an illness, but it's lingering. Maybe you have that tickle in your throat, or it's not cough that won't go away. That's good to keep in your pocket and subdue it for a little bit. Or the grief formulas, things like that for emotional support. I mix it a lot with nervines or herbs that affect the nervous system in correlation to open up the lungs, the heart, and the mind. And kind of a nice triangle there. Was this the flower, Carly?
Yes.
What did you guys think about the tincture?
I like it.
I do
It's
too.
drying, for me anyway.
Yeah.
So you're consistent, mine's moist, and it's almost, yeah, and I haven't felt this with the others. It's like the inside of my mouth is so soft. I know that sounds weird, but it just feels so soft.
That's what, I mean, it's giving me the visual of the leaf itself.
Oh, going through, yeah.
How are you guys responding?
Try.
Dry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The tincture wasn't as drying,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but it's
Still,
it's there.
It's there, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any questions so far on why you would utilize it or how you would utilize it?
Do you always do the tincture in the glycerine?
You know, actually, this is the first year we've had it in the glycerite. It's because it's been hard to stock.
Okay.
Actually, the only kind we've been able to get in is a glycerite.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we don't make our tinctures in house. We order them in. Excuse me. And so the companies that we order them in have been out of stock on tinctures and only have been able to carry the glycerites.
So you could do either or. Doesn't really.
Yeah. Yep. People that have the only types of times that I would utilize a glycerite by request would be for children, because there's some, with the tinctures, it is an alcohol extract. So you are giving a medicine quality type of alcohol to children. So age range and parental consent of essentially what you're comfortable with as a parent. The other thing is people with alcohol dependency, just that small amount can trigger alcohol dependency. So at that point, you would want to move to the glycerite anyway, or to a tea. Ready for the flower? Okay.
If you see the mullein like growing wildly, I saw you're not supposed to pick it like from the roadside or whatever. But let's say I do.
Yeah, just hypothetical.
Just not gonna, like, let's say I do. When is the best time to harvest it?
What's the best time? Yeah, we all
As long as I know the farmer doesn't spray it.
Well, I picked this one from the roadside, but I'm not going to utilize it. So the reason you don't want to pick from the roadside is even if you know that things have not been sprayed this year, it's still the byproducts from the cars going by. So that enters the soil and feeds the plants that are growing up.
Okay.
So there is the carbon output from the traffic going by. And so that all of that is entering what is supposed to be your medicine. So you end up having like a toxic load.
Okay.
Now, if you know of an area, prairies, something like that, or a farmer that has open prairie that doesn't spray, the flowers come up midsummer of the second year, and the leaves, I would say, I'm probably seeing them in June. Yeah.
And does the frost affect them?
I would say for sure, because this,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. It would
this
take
is,
the-
yeah,
okay.
it is, You
Like,
can
worked for
see
me, and my wife wanted something
that it's
for
past its prime.
daytime anxiety
Mhm.
and just like sleepy, things were sleepy.
So you can at least and this is something to pay attention to if you're ordering plants, identifying when plants are in bloom, like the flower. The flower is really hard to source because one, it only comes the second year, and each plant only has just a small amount. So the flower blooms midsummer, and then if you're trying to source it, it will be on the market around August.
Do you have any?
And it's on the market for about a
Any
month,
like the
and then
sleepy
it's sold
pills,
out
you know, like melatonin?
for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So
but
those
just
are
other-
things
other-
that if you identify the cycle of plants and you're trying to at least source them from different companies, you can
Yeah,
identify
I
when
normally don't
things
take
will be
it, but I
in
have
stock.
tried the ones.
So things like the flower are harder to get.
And
And the mullein is also harder to get in the wintertime when people start having colds and flus, and the mullein's not in season anymore. You're just dealing with the stock from last season, essentially. So come January, once
I just want some like
the first wave, the second wave of sickness has gone through, you'll see a lot of companies are out of stock because the crop isn't growing, at least in the United States anymore. Yeah. So those are kind of things to pay attention to, at least if you are purchasing from or harvesting locally, just identifying the growing cycles and making sure that you have stock.
but not like a lot. And
Yeah.
then I just recently stopped drinking like coffee and ice with it, and so yeah. But you know, this is yeah, but it's not the pearls, it's just the something dropping.
This is like a cross between plain jasmine, pearls, and the green tea.
Okay.
Smell it.
Yeah, sure.
Now, right off the bat,
Sure.
I have to
I'm
say
not
that this
super picky,
brewed
so
for
it's just
probably
like-
20 minutes longer than
It's
normal.
not like buy the gram.
So we will see.
These are all by the gram. Our tea blends.
Do they harvest the flower at full bloom or do they wait a little bit?
I'll pass the flower around,
Okay.
and you can see that most of the flowers have bloomed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we utilize the flower in only one product, and it's our garlic mullein ear oil.
Oh,
So this is a product where actually the constituents of the mullein flower extract well for those antibacterial, antiviral properties for the ears. So that's where we utilize mullein flower at least.
Okay.
It's pretty soothing as a pain reliever for the ears.
Yeah. I'll just do
And ear
a jar
infections.
of one of each of those, and then yeah.
Is there a certain amount of servings you'd like me to give you a recipe for?
I guess I would want to try some.
You can see right off the bat that this one is darker than the leaf. Now, this could be because it grew longer. And it could just be because of the different constituents or cells of the plant from the different parts. Okay, so let's try the organoleptics with this one too and identify how this part of the plant affects the body differently, if so. I'm gonna pass around the flower. If you care to do organoleptics with the flower, go right ahead. It was one time's enough.
Be brave.
same plant, but a different part.
And I could grab either.
Can I,
if you'd like to smell them.
Yeah, sure.
can I get different results?
Absolutely, you can get
Okay,
different
'cause I'm sitting
results.
here
Yeah.
thinking, this is not, I mean, it's fine, I just,
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
nothing like
taste
the other one.
It's sweeter.
Huh.
It's much
Yeah.
sweeter.
Yeah.
It's still
I do the, I got
kind
just
of
like
fuzzy
the
feeling,
and then the oolong.
But not near like that other. It's fine,
No,
I'm
this
good.
is not bad.
I can
Yeah.
chew this
Yeah.
and swallow it and not that other. That's kinda good.
Mhm.
You're fine. We have a class every second Wednesday of the month, but we're still open to the customers.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, you are good.
not as drying.
That's true.
My mouth feels very wet.
Mm. So right now, I'm very
Wet
glad that
dry.
we're ending with the flower.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we reflect on that first statement that I made earlier, regarding that the flower would have more demulcent qualities versus the leaf, versus compared to the responses that you guys had, would you say that that is true? Meaning demulcent, meaning more
Yeah.
moistening.
Yeah, I'm not getting that parched,
Mm-hmm.
later parched
Yeah.
feeling.
I keep going to whenever I have that kind of astringent quality, it's almost like a glass of red wine for me. Because those I think the tannins in the leaf, they do suck up a lot of the moisture in your mouth. Yep. Mhm. Now, Kim,
In the
let's,
leaf, though, you're
let's
talking
check.
about.
Yes, I'm talking about the
And
leaf.
this is the flower.
This is the flower. Yeah.
Yes,
uh-huh.
okay.
Let's check in with you because you thought that the leaf was moistening.
It
Now-
was wonderful and soft.
And
This
how,
is not.
and how does this one
is
respond to you?
drying.
This one is drying to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
very much so.
All right. So this is the perfect example on how different plants respond to different people. And once again, I find this one moistening. Now, can I ask you what your constitution is that you started off with?
Hot, dry.
Hot and dry. Okay. All right. Now, after sampling mullein, would you consider it a warming herb or a cooling herb? Are you guys sweating now? Or are you pretty neutral?
I'll just,
Are you
I'll just
cool?
do like a full jar.
Pretty neutral? Yeah. Considering you did have warm liquids. I would say that my experience, and it's personal whenever I say my experience, that's my personal experience with the herb, I find it to be neutral to cooling.
You would think it'd be like about double.
It really is indicated for those really inflamed lung conditions though that are hot to kind of tonify and cool those down. Yeah. So if you think of those conditions, someone that has that chronic cough, it's been going on for a while, can't really remove a lot of mucus, coughing a lot, mullein will go in, soothe it, tonify those mucous membranes, kind of relieve and decongest some of that mucus out. Yeah. Any questions?
Would you say it thins the body fluid a little bit?
I would say that. Mhm.
It seems like it is doing
Yeah.
it, that if you have heavy congestion, it's thinning it.
Sister, yeah.
Now the products that we have the mullein in, we have the mullein flower, like I said, in the ear oil. We have the chest relief, and I believe the mullein flower is also in a combination with elecampane, wild cherry bark, and elderberry in our elderberry oxymel. So the elderberry oxymel supports basically the sinuses, but also the lungs too.
Can kids have that?
Mm-hmm. They can. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now the preparations that we've had of mullein have all been water-based, and mostly water-soluble versus the glycerite. So the glycerite would be more medium ground. If you think of the wheel of solubility, there's water, there's the middle, which in the middle consists mainly of tinctures and glycerites, and then there's the oil bases here. Now, when I talk about the solubility aspect, I talk about it because the cells of the plants, some cells will extract into water for their medicinal aspects. Some cells will extract better into oil. And so, and it depends on what aspect medicinally you're looking for what form you want to utilize it. So, for instance, a lot of those astringent, lung-moving qualities extract best into the oil, or excuse me, into the water, or the water soluble. That's why we drink most of it in the tea or utilize it in the tincture, because it's the middle ground, right? Mullein flower, or mullein leaf, is not traditionally utilized in a salve base for that decongestant quality, or utilized topically. Those medicinal properties aren't really that effective in the oil base. If we can think of some, well, we did ashwagandha months ago. Now, ashwagandha has a constituent in it that calms the nervous system down, but that constituent is only activated with fat. And so you need an oil base in that to extract that. And so that's kind of what we're talking about here. But most of what when we're talking about mullein, it's a safe one to use with water. Do you guys have any questions for me?
So my son has had this cough and not been able to talk for many days.
Yeah.
What would you suggest for that?
It sounds like the bronchioles and that epithelial skin is probably so inflamed from the coughing. It's
Very dry.
Very dry, not producing anything. Okay. I would probably work with demulcents, things to soothe and cool down that throat. But I probably would work with like an elecampane and an osha to those stimulating demulcents are stimulating things to get the lungs moving.
So do you have a product that has these?
So I believe, let me see here. The osha is not in any of the products just because that one is a little bit harder to source. However, I think both the mullein and the elecampane is in the chest relief. So, yes. So, elecampane is in here. So, this stimulates. Yeah, this is a tea. Yeah. So, what this will do, and I'll read each ingredient out here. So, first one is nettle leaf. So, the nettle leaf is antihistamine, astringent, really nutrient dense. The next ingredient is the elecampane. So this will be indicated for either coughs and bacterial things that have created infections because it has those antibacterial qualities, but it moves the lungs, so it stimulates things to get things moving. So if you have junk in the lungs that is stagnant and hasn't been moved enough. The wild cherry bark, this is a soothing and coating for the throat, so it's a demulcent. It's moistening for the throat, and it relaxes the lungs a little bit too. So those balance each other out. We've got the mullein in here. So the mullein, we know the mullein. What's the experience that you've had with the mullein? Drying, yeah. And we have cinnamon. Cinnamon is in here as a circulatory stimulant, so moves circulation to the area. The licorice is a lymphagogue, and we also have anise, antibacterial. So we have this.
That's good.
The elderberry syrup.
I'm glad that you thought of us for your tea.
Oh yeah. I didn't even know you were sure.
I'm glad
But
you
I
got this.
believe it is the elderberry itself, which boosts the immune system, wild cherry bark, elecampane,
If you have any
elderflower,
questions when you go to brew them, just let me know.
Okay.
and then the mullein.
And if there's like one that I end up liking a lot, do you guys do like
So
discounts?
the elderberry
Do
is
discounts.
focuses on
Okay.
the sinuses
Yeah.
in it.
Alright.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, thank you. You have a good one.
Yes, you too.
Like
That
the
means-
tincture
What's that?
of the elderberry, of that,
We do have just the plain elderberry
that's
tincture,
just
yeah.
elderberry, okay.
But then we have the oxymil preparation that's all put together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, for instance, if those are the products we have on the floor, but we can also just dispense individual ingredients too. Yep. Or make a custom formula. Yeah. So, usually how I utilize Mullein a lot is just in this case. I've been sick. I'll add it into a tincture that I utilize a lot as just an additional support. I'll make a custom blend with Mullein for allergy, drainage, common cold or flu. Start getting that scratch in my throat, I'll add it in. And then for if I feel like I'm holding a lot of sadness in my chest region, that energetic support. Yep. So I find that that's physical support for moving energy is really important. You guys have questions for me? No? Okay. Well, I'll be here if anything pops up.